Break out the brooms, baby. It's a sweep. Boston Celtics are moving on to the second round, and I'm going to talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making the show part of your daily routine and your first listen every day. And I know this is your first listen today because on this day, Tuesday, the Celtics are moving on to the second round, the only team in the NBA playoffs to have swept their first round against against the Brooklyn Nets. Look, I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. I'm supposed to tell you how this whole show is going to get laid out now. No, you know what we're doing? We're celebrating right now because the Celtics going to have the whole week off. Game one still isn't even set. We'll see what happens with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Chicago Bulls. That is going to be that series going to probably wrap up on Wednesday. We might see game one on Sunday. So the Celtics are going to take Tuesday off. Hell, they might take Wednesday off and practice Thursday, Friday. Yeah, if that works, Thursday, Friday, Saturday off. Light and then play. That makes sense to me, but we'll see. So we've got a whole week to get into structure and all of that. Right now, we're celebrating a sweep. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. You can get it on my website, johnkaralis.com. I was one of the media voters for the Celtics 75th anniversary team, and I'm sitting here right now at the Barclays Center, which is no longer the home of the Brooklyn Nets, at least not until October. Right now, and on YouTube, you can see if I move this out of the way. I don't know if you can tell. That's the New York Liberty logo. It's now a WNBA arena, and you can hear it if you're listening on the podcast. They're assembling the floor for the New York Liberty. The Celtics ended the Brooklyn Nets season. I apologize for all of the popping. Once again, they're popping the Thunder sticks. So I seem to come out at a great time for them to be doing that stuff. Celtics beat the Brooklyn Nets 116-112. First of all, let me just give a shout out to Brooklyn. I was talking to a few people in the media room, and I got asked, what do you think is going to happen? I said, first 12-0 run the Celtics put out, the Nets are going to lay down. But to their credit, they didn't. They fought. They were trying to win this game. I think they wanted to win this game. I don't think this was a case of we just want to wrap up this series and be done with it and move on. KD was great, 39 points. He didn't shoot entirely great, but he got to the line plenty. 39 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. That's a KD game. Kyrie shot well, not his best game, but better. They got a big game from Seth Curry. They did what they're supposed to do, but the Celtics got their big game from Jayson Tatum, who fouled out. I know I'm a little scatterbrained here. Thank God the Celtics won this game because I didn't want to see all of the Scott Foster talk. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of it anyway, but I didn't want to see all of that stuff. I didn't want that to be the storyline. I know that sixth foul was suspect. I get it. But I think this game proves my point when we talk about this stuff. People are going to sit there and be like, yeah, see, I told you, Scott Foster, blah, 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 blah. But my point is, play good basketball, make the right plays. You're still going to win this game. And this is why I don't want, and I shouldn't even get this right away, but this is where my brain is taking me. I hate blaming the refs so much because this game shows exactly what happens when you play the right way. Blaming the refs is just excuse making. It's so funny that in general, fans will say no excuses to things, but then will very, very quickly blame the refs, and which is the biggest excuse, and it dismisses so much of what a team does wrong to lose a game. The Celtics lost Jayson Tatum for the final almost 3 minutes of this game, and they still held on. A hard-charging Brooklyn Nets team. They got plays from Marcus Smart. They got plays from Al Horford. They got plays from Jaylen Brown. Okay, maybe that play, and Jaylen admitted this. So 22 seconds left to go in this game. KD misses. Actually, let me rewind, because this is a funny thing that I saw. So KD gets the foul. They're up. The Celtics are up 3. This is when Marcus Smart goes for the steal, which he said he didn't even think was a foul, but he kind of knew, like, if you did get the foul, you take that chance, then it's still only 2 free throws. So KD walks down to the other end. He grabs the basketball and, like, rubs on the basketball. It's like one of those things, a superstitious thing, maybe for luck, whatever it is. As soon as he did it, he gives it back to the ref. Grant Williams takes the ball and, like, rubs all over the ball and gives it back to the ref, as if to, like, try to erase some of the whatever force that Kevin Durant put on the ball. And hey, it seems to have worked, because he missed that second free throw. I thought that was hilarious. That is such a pure Grant Williams thing to do. So KD misses. 22 seconds left, and the Celtics have the rebound. Jaylen Brown has the rebound. You basically think, well, they have to foul, right? You just hold the ball, you foul, you go down, you make your free throws, and then you play some defense. But Jaylen and Marcus runs off, like, holding his hand, goes up the left sideline, holding his arm, like, hey, I'm open. And in theory, yeah, he was open, and you throw that long pass and let him go get it, and you run out the clock and whatever. The pass wasn't quite long enough. It almost got stolen. Like, it almost got tipped by KD. Marcus goes down the other end, misses the layup. And luckily for the Celtics, that Al Horford was there to clean it up and finish it, and put the Celtics back up 3. That was a wild sequence. And afterwards, Jaylen was like, yep, probably shouldn't have thrown that pass. It was a little bit of a risky pass. And after the play, Jaylen is standing at half court, just kind of like wide-eyed. And Al Horford comes up and gives him a big hug, just a big hug, pats him on the back a bunch of times. Like, it's almost like, hey, it worked. We're going to win. Just relax. That was just a whole funny sequence. The end of this game was nuts. I thought the Celtics, they were up 10 or 12 at the end of the third quarter. I thought, and I tweeted it out, I said, one good run to start the fourth, and this thing's a wrap. And credit to Brooklyn, they answered with a 6-0 run and made this a game the rest of the way. But the Celtics, it wasn't until I think Peyton Pritchard missed a floater late in the fourth quarter. I said, uh-oh, wait a minute. They might not hold on here. But they did. There was a stretch, though, in the beginning of this game. I'll tell you, I thought the turning point of this game, as many runs as were made, I thought the turning point in this game was actually in the second quarter. All right. I'm going to tell you why when I come back. First, let's talk about PrizePicks, which is daily fantasy made easy. Now, you can still play daily fantasy, even though your regular fantasy leagues are over. You can play daily fantasy with whatever teams are left in the playoffs. But the cool thing with PrizePicks is you can cross sports. You can say, hey, tomorrow, what games are on tomorrow? I'm going to take John Morant points. I'm going to take the over on John Morant points. And then I'm going to take the under on, doubles by Sandra Bogarts or something like that. You can cross over. It's very easy to use. You pick 2 to 5 players and over under on their projections. And it's just you against the numbers. And that's the cool part here. It's you against the numbers. and you're not playing up against other people and trying to beat people with algorithms and high-powered computers and all of that. So check it out. PrizePicks, like I said, you can cross over to other sports. And for a limited time, PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. You get $50 free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point, but you got to use the promo code NBA. It's free money. All your first pick, somebody's got to score a single point, but only if you use the promo code NBA. So check it out. It's PrizePicks. Download the app on the App Store, Google Play. Go to prizepicks.com. Make sure that you're getting everything there downloaded. It's a great time. A lot of people have talked to me about how much fun they're having. They've come up to me at the Garden and told me, check it out. PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. How about making Locked On NBA your second listen? I'm one of the hosts of Locked On NBA. I normally host on Wednesdays with Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans, but the Pelicans are actually playing on Tuesday night. So he'll be taking care of that game. I'll be hosting this week with Tony East of Locked On Pacers. But it's a fun podcast. Playoffs covered like nobody else. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts. It's on YouTube. Check out Locked On NBA on YouTube. Okay. The Celtics had a 9-point lead, and they gave up a run at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter. This is the turning point in the game to me, why it was important. Compare this, what I'm about to tell you, to game 2. Remember after game 2, I said that had the feeling of a game where once they took the lead, they were going to run away with it. All they had to do was break through, and they spent the third quarter of game 2 struggling to break through, and they finally did it in the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, the Celtics had a 12-point lead. Well, the Celtics gave up this 9-0 run, and a couple minutes into the second quarter, here comes KD, tied at 30. He's on the right corner, fires up a 3, and that sucker went, I don't even want to say halfway down. That was almost all the way down to a point where I don't even know how it came out. As that ball was starting to go down, Ime Udoka was walking onto the court to call a timeout because the Nets were going to be up 3. The ball pops out and he has to run. He almost runs into the ref. He has to run back off the court because now the Celtics have it. He's not calling a timeout. He's letting it go. Why is that the turning point? Because that shot that Kevin Durant had, tied at 30, was the only shot in this game, the only field goal attempt in this game that Brooklyn had where they could have taken a lead. At no other point in this game, they never did lead, obviously. And at no other point in this game did they even have a field goal attempt to take it. Now, after that play, the Celtics turned the ball over and they had a possession, but they turned the ball over again there. And the Celtics went on a run and put some distance between themselves. And even though Brooklyn made runs after that, got it down to 2 or got it down to 4 and got it down to like a place where they could have maybe tied it or something, they never, ever in this game, aside from that one shot where Ime was about to call a timeout and light into his team, that was the only opportunity they had to take a lead, and they couldn't do it. And I don't know how it would have gone, but I have a strong feeling that once they took the lead, it would have been tough for Boston because they had the momentum. They had KD feeling good. And it's entirely possible that run could have continued. Now, who knows what would have? Maybe Boston would have answered that and the game would have gone exactly the same. No one knows. But that spot there, I think, because Brooklyn couldn't take the lead, was super important. Now, the Celtics did do a great job after that, and they managed to still, I think, play really good defense on Kyrie Irving. And I thought, even though KD got off a little bit, I thought Grant, like you still had like stretches of amazing defense. with, Grant Williams. I keep bringing him up. I even saw Grant Williams' dad here at the game, and I had to be like, hey, Grant was awesome in this series. Like, imagine being a dad and watching your son play and have somebody come up to you and say that. Like, Grant was awesome in this series. It was amazing. It was tweeted out, and the videos in my Boston Sports Journal recap. The defensive stop that he had on KD was brilliant, and I thought he played great defense throughout. So I thought the Celtics kept their composure. Like, no matter what was happening, you never got the spiral that you got in other parts of this season. You never got that, like, even in the fourth quarter when things started, that Brooklyn was making their comeback. Brooklyn outscored Boston, but you never had that spiral. It never got out of control. It really only happened once in the series, and that was the fourth quarter of game one. The beginning of the fourth quarter in game one, the Celtics kind of reverted back to that's kind of, this fourth quarter looks problematic. Celtics in clutch situations had clutch situations in all 4 games of the series, and they closed out the game in all 4 games. Now you can say, hey, it wasn't pretty. Maybe there are some issues that when I go back and look at the game film, we could go back and kind of recount how things went in this series and say, all right, there are issues that the Celtics still need to address, but I thought they kept their composure very, very well. And that bodes well. Look, again, people said Boston shouldn't have played Brooklyn. And I sat here and I was a little more up that way, when I was sitting here after game 3. I said, look, Ime did this because Ime knew that he could. Ime knew that he had the plan to handle Durant. Like, he knew it. I said it then, I'll say it again now. When Ime Udoka is showing that level of confidence, believe him. Believe what he is selling, because first of all, he seems to be like very honest about, if he doesn't like something, he'll tell you. If he thinks something's not going well, he'll tell you. But if he believes in something, you better believe, if he's showing confidence in something that he believes in, then I'm going to believe it. I'm going to believe it until he proves himself otherwise. But they came in here into Brooklyn, and it's not the most hostile environment. It's not the place that's gonna like scare people when they come in here and be like, oh God, we got to play in Brooklyn. That's a tough place to play. Like, but it still gets loud. It's still the road. Ime has taken this team, and he's taken raw steel and he forged a sword. I compared him in my column on Boston Sports Journal to Hattori Hanzo in the Kill Bill movies, who forged a sword so sharp that it would cut God himself. Like, that was the line in the movie. And I think this is a great example of what Ime has done with this team. He has taken this team, this big clump of steel, and he has shaped it and given it its edge. And suddenly now this is a dangerous, dangerous weapon. Dangerous weapon. Now, I think this sweep has the potential to push this team into the NBA Finals. Why would this sweep push the Celtics into the NBA Finals? I'll tell you why next. First, let's talk about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting stats, your sports information, in-game stuff. You could have bet, maybe you could have bet on Tatum fouling out. A lot of people would have bet on that. I know, with Scott Foster in there. But BetOnline is your continued source for your sports wagering information, live betting, playoffs, esports, baseball, everything that you want. Favorite Vegas casino games. It's all there as the playoffs continue, as the Major League Baseball season really starts to kick into gear. So head on over to the website today, use your mobile device, and learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline is where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. So the Boston Celtics sweep the Brooklyn Nets. I think this could push the Celtics into the NBA Finals. And you think, why? Why would you say that after one round? Two reasons. Number one, Robert Williams was able to come back in this series, but he looked a little rusty, let's say. Okay, Rob didn't look great, but he came back in the series, and now because of the sweep, this was Monday night. Tuesday is an off day. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you have 4 days of film, rehab, continued strengthening, time on the floor, time in the film session to really hammer home. I don't think they're going to watch any Bulls film. Let's just put it that way. And I think I said this the other day with Tom Westerholm. Now you've got Ime Udoka, who now is proven, all right, he has all the notes on Kevin Durant. He used those notes on Kevin Durant, and he turned that into a sweep. Then he now has another notebook full of Milwaukee Bucks notes from the Brooklyn Nets series against the Milwaukee Bucks last year that they almost won. He knows what rattled them. He knows what worked. And he's got better defenders here. One of those better defenders is Robert Williams, who in this game was but getting up and down, made a couple of nice plays for sure, but right? Same thing, game 3, But to be elite, to level up and make it to the finals and win a championship, they're going to need Robert Williams. And they now have 4 days, 5 days, whatever it is, to get Robert Williams up to speed. The entire game plan now, it's not working him into a plan that had Daniel Tice or whatever. They've got Rob in there from day one. The entire plan surrounds Rob. And they can build him up. They can get him some cardio. They can spend the next week or so building up his stamina because the knee is healthy. And ride the bike, get on that stair climber, get in the water, get on that pool treadmill. You know what I mean? Get that cardio going. So the first reason why I think this could push the Celtics into the finals is they're able to spend significant time working on a game plan with Robert Williams that is going to work with him, that they don't have to kind of side note it. Like if this series had gone 7 and you had 2 days off to prepare for Milwaukee and you're still working Rob into things and he's kind of like slowly working his way in through the just live play, maybe not so much. You're behind. Now they have plenty of time. It's fresh. And side note, everybody's going to be fresh. Jayson Tatum afterwards, he said, it was 4 games, but these were 4 very taxing games. And so everybody could use the extra rest. Any extra rest you can get in the playoffs is great and very welcome. Part 2, why does this push the Celtics into the finals, or could it push the Celtics into the finals? Because they now walked in to Brooklyn. They took down Kevin Durant. They took down Kyrie Irving. They have the confidence. They now know, hey, Ime put this plan together. Oh my God, we just executed this plan and swept Brooklyn. You can be confident. You could be a confident team and walk into a series against Brooklyn like the Celtics did, with a little bit of swagger, with that little bit of a squint, and be like, let's go. We weren't running from you. Let's go. And you would expect the battle. You can expect to win the fight, but you don't expect, a first round knockout. The Celtics went in here and not only executed the plan, they swept these guys. Whoa, right? Whoa. And they didn't just execute the plan. They were able to freelance within the plan. They're able to call things on the fly. And now they say, wow, that worked. These guys are really building something together. And now you come out of this, you win a game, a series like this against KD and Kyrie. You walk out of this with, a little bit of your chest puffed out. You're like, all right, yeah, let's go. Who's next? But the best part is the attitude that these guys have. Marcus Smart at the end of his media availability, he was asked, do you look at the game film from these playoffs and think that you're the best team left? And he says, no, I don't think we're the best team. And I look at our film and I'm looking for reasons why we're not the best team. Because if you think you're the best team, then you get complacent. And we don't want that. We don't want complacency. We don't want bad habits. Man, forget it. This team is such a 180 from what they were in November and December. Just 180 degrees, the exact opposite of what they were at the beginning of the season. It's almost hard to believe that this is still the same team, but they are. This mentality that they have, plus the confidence that they've built up. Ime has these guys just ready to go. This team is a tough team now. This was not a tough team last season, beginning of this season. This was not a tough team. This was soft, mentally unable to handle the adversity, crumbling under the pressure. Now these guys, this team that walked down onto the floor, well, not the Liberty floor, but out there where they were playing basketball earlier, that team, it's like machines, man. This is a relentless basketball team. Not perfect, but relentless. And they keep throwing their punches and taking punches. It's amazing. So the confidence, the edge that's been developed over this series, plus the time to get Rob back into shape and back into like on the same page of the game plan. I mean, who's beating that team 4 times in a series? It's going to be tough. I think the Celtics can ride that wave all the way into the NBA Finals now, which is mind-blowing to me that I say that, and I feel confident in that. Knowing full well that Milwaukee's a really good team, and they could lose in the second round, and it would be absolutely legit. And they could lose in the conference finals to Miami, or assuming Philly makes it. I know they were up 3-0, and now it's 3-2. That, by the way, side note, Toronto is such a pesky. This is why I didn't want to play Toronto. Forget the vaccine stuff. They just don't die. They just don't. You never want to play Toronto in the playoffs. They just don't go away. But whoever they play in the conference finals, the Celtics could lose. They could. And it'd be legit. But I could very easily see the Celtics making it the whole way now, getting into the NBA Finals. And then who knows what happens there? Because they're just a machine now. They just keep coming. A lot more to get to this week. Previewing the series against Milwaukee. We'll let Milwaukee actually win before I go to Locked On Bucks and get a crossover. We'll get more analysis. We'll kind of rehash the series, what works, what didn't work. Stuff's going to come out of practices and stuff. So plenty to talk about. And then, of course, whenever the series does start, if it's on a Friday night or a Saturday night, bonus podcasts are coming. So it's a 5-day-a-week podcast, Monday through Friday. But if I need to podcast extra during the playoffs, I will do that to make sure you get every single post game covered. So make sure you're subscribed to the Locked On Celtics podcast, wherever you get your podcast. And also, the show is on YouTube. You can watch the show on YouTube. Oh, and I'm also on Cameo. If you want to send a birthday shout out, any kind of like just greeting to other people, look me up on Cameo. It's John Karalis on Cameo. I've done a few of them. They're kind of fun. It's kind of a ridiculous thing. I think that that Cameo even exists, but here I am. I'm there. But mostly just watch the podcast, share the podcast. If you are a subscriber, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.